Dear students, I am here with a new lecture from the chapter Respiration of the course Plant Physiology 1. Today, I will discuss the types of respiration in this lecture. I am Dr. Smina Mahmood, Assistant Professor Botany in the University of Education, Lahore. So we have a lot more discussion about the respiration procedure overall. What are the substrates? How energy is produced? So now it is important to know what type of respirations exist in the body and what is the difference between these types of respiration, which are actually aerobic and anaerobic respiration, and what is the difference in the mechanism of the aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So by keeping these objectives into our mind, today I will start my lecture. So, first, how many types of respiration are there that occur into any type of living organism? Respiration is actually the process of oxidation of food to obtain energy, and it is actually the catabolic process in which the large molecules get break down in a series of reactions in the presence of enzymes to get converted into the simple compounds to produce carbon dioxide, water, and release energy. Our objective is not basically the water and carbon dioxide production. ATP production, that is the energy molecule in the body, is the actually a purpose of the and the driving force behind the process of respiration. And the organelles which are involved, particularly in case of plants, in the process of respiration are chloroplast, mitochondria, and peroxisome. As we all know that animals and plants, they don't have photosynthesis apparatus in them. They are not green in color. So this particular mitochondria chloroplast is absent in case of human and animal examples. So over there, mostly the process occur in mitochondria and peroxisome. Respiration is divided into two main types. One is called the aerobic respiration and the other one is called anaerobic respiration. Respiration is actually same, that is the catabolism of the complex molecules, but the difference in both types exists in the availability of the oxygen. If the oxygen is present, then it is called aerobic respiration. If the process of catabolism occur in the absence of oxygen, then it is called aerobic respiration. The main facts which are associated with the respiration process are the consumption of the atmospheric oxygen, and due to, as I told you, this is a catabolic process, this is a breakdown process, this is the oxidation process in the presence of oxygen. So that's why first fact is the consumption of the atmospheric oxygen that occur in case of plant through stomata, in case of bark through lenticels, in case of roots through root hairs. And as it is the catabolic process, so loss of dry weight due to the oxidation and decomposition of the stored food occur. It means there is a reduction in the dry weight values of that particular organ due to the oxidation or breakdown of the stored food molecules. And in response to this catabolic process, carbon dioxide is produced, which is liberated into the air, and small quantity of water is produced. And this carbon dioxide produced is in case of plants, it get liberated into the air. In case of leaves and succulent stems, through stomata. In case of bark, through lenticels. And in case of roots, through root hairs into the air spaces which are present between the soil particles. Because I told you the whole plant is involved in the process of respiration, but the openings, specific openings are different in different parts of the plant body. And I told you that the carbon dioxide and water is not our main product which we required in the respiration. Energy is actually what we want, or due to which we want the respiration should occur in the body. That is the energy which is released in the form of ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Here you can see in a generalized equation of the respiration that as hexose sugar, glucose is the example of hexose sugar. Hexose sugar means, I told you in the carbohydrate, example of sugar that contains 6 carbon molecules in its structure. So these this get reduced in the presence of oxygen, and it is oxidized in the presence of oxygen, and it break down into carbon dioxide, water, and energy. And here this as we calculated, when we calculate the RQ value for the carbohydrates, from there we know 6 molecules of oxygen are utilized to produce 6 molecules of oxygen. So RQ value for the carbohydrate is 1, and it shows the 100% combustion of the carbohydrate. In aerobic respiration, in this type of respiration leads to a complete oxidation of stored food or organic substances in the presence of oxygen, and release carbon dioxide, water, and a large amount of energy present in the respiratory substrate. Such type of respiration is generally found in higher organisms. And this is the same equation, and I told you as it is enzymatically controlled reaction. So here some enzymes are present. This is the overall equation. When I explain you the process of respiration in detail in my next lectures, then I will told you and explain you each enzyme specific to each step, and these are almost more than 30 or 40 enzymatic steps which are involved in a single process of respiration, which is divided into 3 reactions. So here overall this is the equation, and the amount of energy which is produced is 2870 kilojoules or 686 kilocalories overall. Anaerobic respiration represents the incomplete oxidation of stored food in the absence of oxygen, results in the formation of carbon dioxide and ethyl alcohol, and sometimes also various organic acids such as malic acid, citric acid, oxalic acid, tartaric acid, etc. And very little energy is released by this process to maintain the activity of the protoplasm. In the absence of free oxygen, many tissues of high plants, seeds in storage, fleshy fluids, and succulent plants such as cactus, and in lower organisms like bacteria and fungi, this carbohydrate in without utilizing oxygen get converted into ethyl alcohol, carbon dioxide, and energy. And here you can see from the last slide 686 kilocalories are produced, while in anaerobic respiration 28 kilocalories are produced only. So in both processes energy is produced, but the amount of energy produced that varies actually between these 2 reactions. And due to the huge amount of energy production, Aerobic respiration is considered the chief type of respiration that occur in the higher organisms that need or require higher amount of energy to carry out their normal body. This is the difference between the aerobic and anaerobic respiration, and here you can see aerobic respiration needs oxygen, while in anaerobic respiration it is independent of the utilization of the oxygen. And respiratory substrate, in case of aerobic respiration, it is fully oxidized in most of the cases. However, it varies a bit according to the type of substrate which is used. Yeah, while in anaerobic respiration, incomplete or partial oxidation of the respiratory substrate occurred. End product of in case of aerobic respiration is the carbohydrate and water with the release of huge amount of energy, while the end product in case of anaerobic respiration is ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide, and it could be in case of fermentation, it could be lactate as well. uh, in case of aerobic respiration, exchange of gases between the environment and organism occur freely, while as oxygen is not present and it can operate with the stored molecules into the body, so no exchange of gases is involved in case of anaerobic respiration. Metabolic water is formed in this reaction as oxygen is used that get reduced into water, while as oxygen is not used in case of anaerobic respiration, so no reduction process of occur, so water is not formed in anaerobic type of respiration. Aerobic respiration partly occur in the cytoplasm, and means some part occur in the cytoplasm and some part in the mitochondria. In case of plants, it is divided between the mitochondria, peroxisome, and plastids, while in case of anaerobic respiration, it occurs in the cytoplasm only. In case of aerobic respiration, as I told you, it produces a huge amount of energy. So 38 ATPs are produced in the one by the one molecule of the glucose, which is respired in the process of aerobic respiration, while 2 ATPs only are produced in the anaerobic respiration of the single molecule of a glucose. In aerobic respiration, it involves the electron transport chain, while in anaerobic respiration, electron transport chain is not involved. This aerobic respiration process runs continuously throughout the life in plants and animals, while anaerobic respiration is not a continuous process. It is continuous only in some microorganisms. In others, it takes place temporarily for short periods during oxygen deficiency. So, from here we can understand that it is possible that both type of respiration occur side by side in an organism, or it is also possible only one type of respiration occur in an organism. For example, microorganism only respire most of the times they respire while through anaerobic respiration, while higher organism they most of the time respire while through aerobic respiration. But when excessive amount of energy is required and when body is starving with glucose, and deficiency of oxygen occur by any means, or by stomata closure, or by short breathing, or by any means, then it is also possible that in higher organism aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration both occur and operate side by side to compensate each other, or to compensate the energy requirement of the. Here is the mechanism difference between the aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, it is divided into four main steps, that is glycolysis, Secondly, oxidative decarboxylation. Third, citric acid cycle, that is also called Krebs cycle. And fourth step is the electron transport chain. That is also called ETC and oxidative phosphorylation. In glycolysis, simply I will explain all of these processes in detail, because this is the base of the process of respiration and overall procedure of respiration. Now I will explain in my next lecture one by one the each process which is involved in the aerobic respiration with the use of enzyme, and which step is specific to which enzyme, and how much energy, and at which step ATPs are produced. I will discuss each and everything in detail in my next lecture. So here you in glycolysis, one glucose molecule is converted into two molecules of pyruvate. This step has no involvement of oxygen. In oxidative decarboxylation, pyruvate is converted into acetyl CoA. In citric acid cycle, actually, carbon dioxide is released from acetyl CoA, and in electron transport and oxidative phosphorylation procedure, which is the last step in the aerobic respiration, NADH2 and FADH2 produced in glycolysis and Krebs cycle are oxidized to NAD positive and FAD positive to give rise the availability of the energy in terms of ATP. This is the picture representation of the aerobic respiration, and here you can see glycolysis, which is occur in the cytosol in case of animals and humans, and or in case of plants there is some role of plastids also. So from the glycolysis, the glucose get converted into the pyruvic acid, and here two ATPs are produced. And this pyruvic acid get converted into acetyl CoA, and that acetyl CoA get enter into the Krebs cycle. And here, by the use of some chemical energy, the products, the Krebs cycle products get entered into the electron transport chain, and in this electron transport chain is considered the main process where a huge amount of ATPs are produced. So here in this step 36 ATPs are produced, and some amount of oxygen is utilized at this step, while carbon dioxide is released during Krebs cycle, and water molecule is also released at the end of the procedure, that is at the termination time of the electron transport chain. Mechanism of anaerobic respiration is similar to the aerobic respiration. In first step, after that they have different directions to operate. That is, glycolysis is almost similar between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. The rest of the procedure is different between these two types of respiration. In anaerobic respiration, the glycolysis product, that is pyruvate, get fermented through the process of fermentation, and it get converted into the ethanol or lactate. And in this procedure no water molecule is produced, because no oxygen molecule is utilized in this process. So glycolysis, one glucose molecule is converted into two molecules of PA. This step has no involvement of oxygen. And fermentation, in this step PA is converted either to lactate in case of animals, or to ethanol in case of plants and bacteria. This is the overall schematic presentation of both types of respiration. As I told you, glycolysis is almost similar between aerobic and anaerobic respiration, and after at the stage of pyruvate production, both types of respiration have different routes. So from here overall, we study lipid, carbohydrate, proteins used as respiratory substrate, and these are called food get hydrolyzed into simple compound if carbohydrates or proteins or lipids, these are present in high level of organization. By then in that case, through enzymatic action, they get converted into glucose that can enter into the process of glycolysis. So glucose get converted into fructose 1,6 biphosphate, and that is ultimately converted into the pyruvate, which is the end product of the glycolysis. And this step is common between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. At the time of pyruvate production, it can have two direction. If oxygen is present, then pyruvate get the direction of aerobic respiration, and if the oxygen is absent, then anaerobic respiration will occur, that lead to the fermentation, and lactate will be produced, and in case of plants, it will produce the ethanol, while pyruvate in case of availability of oxygen. Here you can see, as in case of plants and animals, the end product of the anaerobic respiration different, so two arrows are presented. In case of animals, so product is lactate, and in case of plants, the product is ethanol. So in case of aerobic oxidation, it get enter into the Krebs cycle, and after that into the electron transport chain, and as a result, carbon dioxide, water, and are produced, and 36 molecules of ATPs are produced in this process overall. So as here in glycolysis, two ATPs are utilized, and in the rest two ATPs are produced. So in anaerobic, overall production is 2 ATP, and in aerobic respiration, overall production is 36 to 38 ATPs. So different steps of respiration occur at different location into the cell, because respiration process, as I told you, it is divided into different steps, and each step occur at different location into the cell. Glycolysis mostly occur in the cytosol in case of animals and humans, and in case of plants, chloroplast is also involved. Oxidative carboxylation occurs into the mitochondrial matrix, whose structure I explained in detail in my previous lectures, and Krebs cycle that also occur into the matrix of the mitochondria, and electron transport chain that occur onto the inner membrane of the mitochondria. In my previous lecture, I told you that the inner membrane of the mitochondria and the matrix of the mitochondria, which is enclosed by the inner membrane of the mitochondria, is very important with respect to the process of respiration. These are some abbreviation which will be used in the whole procedure when I will explain you the process of respiration, that is glycolysis, oxidative phosphorylation, Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain. So I will explain all of these abbreviation here. In the next, I will use only this abbreviated form for each molecule. So ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate, ADP for adenosine diphosphate, NAD for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. NADP stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. NADH stands for reduced nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and the difference between these two is the difference in phosphate and hydroxyl group which is attached. PGA is phosphoglyceric acid. PGAL stands for phosphoglyceraldehyde. FAD stands for flavin adenine dinucleotide. ETA stands for electron transport system. ETC stands for electron transport chain. One is showing the system and other one is showing the chain process. TCA, tricarboxylic acid, uh, OAA, oxalic acid, oxaloacetic acid, FMN, flavin, mononucleotide, PPP, pentose phosphate pathway. That's all for today's lecture. I hope you all able to understand the different types of respiration and what difference exists in their mechanism of operation. I use these two books to prepare this lecture. You can go through these two if you are interested more in this topic. Thank you very much.